Are you thinking about getting a divorce and wondering how that is going to affect your kids? Well, you're in the right place because in this video, I am going to share with you the effects of divorce on children. And spoiler alert, a lot depends on you. A lot depends on you, even if your child's other parent is a terrible person. You're going to want to stick around to the end because at the end of this video, I am going to share with you the best strategy for helping your kids. My name is Val Heminger, and I have been a divorce lawyer for more than 25 years. And over the years, I have literally helped thousands of parents while they negotiate going through their separation and divorce process. And over those years, I have seen some terrible things happen to families because of the combative nature of the family law industry. And that's why I'm wanting to share with you how you can make things better and avoid the nasty effects of divorce on your kids. I'm sure you are like most parents. We want our kids to be happy, to be healthy, to have great relationships, to be successful in their own lives. And that's why when we look at divorce and the effects on children, and when my clients ask me that, hey, how's this going to affect my kids? I say, there might be a bumpy bit as everybody transitions to the new experience of living in two homes, for example. But after that transitionary period, kids tend to do very well. That is, if you let them. The effect of divorce on your children depends on how you and the other parent behave after your separation. If you are able to positively co-parent with your child's other parent, well, chances are the effect of divorce on your child is going to be relatively positive. And what I mean by that is if parents do the opposite of that, in that they are continuing to be battling with each other or have a toxic parenting relationship, they send those missile texts, those emails. The thing is that even if those kinds of exchanges don't happen in front of your kids, or they're not reading your texts or reading your emails or overhearing the conversations that you're having with your friends bashing the other parent. Well, the thing is that kids know that tension's going around. They feel it. Kids are emotionally intelligent in a way that we forgot a very, very long time ago. And when parents keep up a toxic narrative against each other, it really hurts the kids. In fact, when science has looked at the effect of divorce on children, what they have determined is that divorce isn't the problem, but whether parents are together or they are apart, if children are exposed to ongoing conflict in the home or even post-separation, if that ongoing conflict continues to happen, it actually affects children's physiology and it affects the ability of their brains to develop. So what I've said over the years, if I've had clients who are in a high conflict relationship and if they are initiating the conflict at all, I say, you know what? If you want your kids to quit school, do drugs, have a terrible life, then what you should do is keep doing what you're doing. Because the fact is true that children who come from these high conflict situations tend not to fare well. I'm thinking about a case I had, and I will call the child that was involved in that case Daniel. And when I was dealing with this matter, he was about 6 or 7 years old. Now, the thing is with Daniel's parents, they are so embroiled, even though they separated so young that Daniel doesn't even remember them being together. The parents are so in conflict with each other, blaming each other for absolutely everything that's going wrong with Daniel, pointing fingers at each other, and never actually accepting that they might have something to do with Daniel's behavior. What's happening with Daniel's behavior? Well, when he is in school, he's often disruptive in the classroom. He has a hard time concentrating on his work. Sometimes he will sit there and just sob in tears, talk about how much he hates himself. So rather than these parents thinking about, wow, I wonder what's going on for my child and how we can help him, they simply point the fingers at each other. In fact, Daniel was being cross-examined, questioned by his teacher about whether or not he was safe in his dad's home, because the mother had gone to the school and explained to the teacher that dad was a terribly abusive guy, etc. Of course, that is completely in dispute. And the point is this, that little Daniel is confused, overwhelmed, and meanwhile, this case went to many days of trial and to this day has no sign of abating. Yes, I'm no longer involved with that matter at all. The point being is little Daniel, he doesn't have much hope in life because his parents cannot seem to pull their heads up enough to look at what they are doing. And what they're doing is hurting their kid. Oh, hey, it's me. Interrupting a little bit because I want videos like this to reach more people. So if you are enjoying what you see, if you're finding it helpful, please hit the subscribe button, which is somewhere up there. And also tell me, what was the biggest takeaway you had with respect to this video? Leave it in the comments below and I will answer every comment, every question, because that's what I do. So this is what happens when kids have their parents be at continued war. You know what they think? They think that if they were more lovable, if they were more important, if they were worth it, that their parents wouldn't have to fight about them. Thing is, kids, when their parents fight, they think it's their fault. They take on that shame and that guilt and feeling like they're wrong. So when thinking about the effect of divorce on your kids, it doesn't have to be all bad news. I just gave you that terrible story. But also, I want to share the other side of this coin. The other side of the coin is that if kids are experiencing parents who have a good co-parenting relationship, the children, they tend to feel loved, they tend to feel cared for, they feel safe. I'm going to tell you the story about a client I will call Harriet. Now, Harriet and John, they were together for a long time, and they've got 2 daughters. Now, John, well, from Harriet's perspective, was not a really great husband. In fact, he was kind of a lump. He just sat around all day. He didn't contribute financially. He didn't actually do much support of the children in terms of getting them to school or making their lunches or anything. Essentially, Harriet was a single parent, even though she had this husband at home. So she was doing all the jobs of parenting as well as earning the money. And she really, or most of the money, and she really found that after her and John separated, that her life has gotten so much better and she's so much happier. And the thing is, John and Harriet are the parents of these 2 children that they both love very, very much. Now, because these children are so important to John and Harriet, and yeah, John's a lump and all of that. However, one thing's for sure, he loves his girls. And so Harriet knows that. And what John and Harriet do is they work together a lot. So for example, when it comes to making Christmas dinner, John and Harriet will connect and they'll say, okay, we're having Christmas dinner at your house or my house. They eat Christmas dinner together as a family. Their children are in sports. And when their children are playing a game, they look up on the stands and sure enough, they see John and Harriet sitting together. Because even though John and Harriet aren't in love anymore, and even though they are actually both happier that they're no longer together, they show up together for their children. And in fact, sometimes when one of them has a relative visiting from out of town and says, hey, can I have the children for the extra day this weekend because the aunt's in town or something? You know, they work that kind of stuff out. And unlike Daniel, what I'm saying is John and Harriet's kids, they are going to have a much better opportunity or hope of faring better in this life. So the thing to remember is that the effect of divorce on your children depends on you. Now, I have an exception to that. Well, it's not an exception, but you know that thing where they say that it always takes 2 to tango? Having been doing this work for as long as I have, when there's a high conflict situation, is not always both parents who are in the conflict. Sometimes someone has the misfortune of having the other parent of their children being a highly combative, high conflict type of person. So what do you do in this situation? Well, the great news is that it still depends on you. And what I mean by that is it depends on you in that there are things you can do to lessen the conflict, lessen the battle. The strategy that you use when you have a high conflict spouse. So let's say, or ex-spouse, let's say they've sent you, a missile email where they're insulting you and saying terrible things about you and all kinds of stuff. Well, one option is that you just don't bite, that you don't spend all of this time responding to all of their terrible allegations about you. When you have a high conflict ex-spouse, the other parent, if you engage and you try to respond to all of the terrible allegations, well, first of all, don't you have better things to do with your time and energy? Probably. And secondly, do you think for a second they're going to read that stuff and go, oh yeah, she or he is so right. I am a jerk. Yeah, it's not going to happen. So don't waste your time. And most importantly, what you want to do is take steps to reduce the conflict, not throw gasoline on the fire. This is me telling you about the effect of divorce on your children and how your role is very, very important. So if you found this video useful, and I hope you did, please click the thumbs up button, because that means that the video will get to more parents who could probably use this information. If you wish to stay in closer contact with me, click the bell icon, and then you can stay up to date with these weekly videos, which I again hope that you'll find helpful. And of course, finally, you will be able to find more information like this one at thebetterdivorceproject.com. And on there, you will also see that I have a free download, which is the 7 essential elements to making your divorce less painful. This is Val. Much, much love.